always the risk of miscalculation out there. And that risk of miscalculation is very high. And I would say is that the possibility of a return to war is something that is real. One slight miscalculation, things spin out of control, and you have another vicious downward cycle, possibly worse even than the first round of conflict, a dance in the Gulf, the dance of Hurmuz. Currently, I think it's an attempt to try to break the current standoff. We can call it a protracted state of managed instability, whereby this standoff is now, it's gone on for a few weeks. Both sides are declaring an embargo, have declared an embargo, and both sides are probing each other without wanting to return to war. So we see this as a way to try to break that impasse, to try to create momentum. But at the same time, there's always the risk of miscalculation out there. And that risk of miscalculation is very high at the present time. And I would say is that the possibility of a return to war is something that is real. Maybe people have underestimated. I'd say both sides do not want that, and especially the international community does not want that. But the way, if you play that game of brinksmanship, one slight miscalculation, things spin out of control, and you have another vicious downward cycle, possibly worse even than the first round of conflict, or from starting on February 28th. I mean, once again, I refer to that state of protracted instability is you have this, it's sort of a new status quo that has been evolving in recent weeks. And that new status quo is that each side, one probing the other, but without wanting to make that move to descend into armed conflict again. So you can call it it's like a show going on at the present time, a dance in the Gulf, the dance of Hurmuz. But when does it actually bake remains the simple question. For the global economy, as we know, Hurmuz has been emphasized many, many times. 20% of global oil flows go through there. The markets continue to remain volatile. Supply chains keep to remain disrupted. Insurance and shipping costs will go up and will skyrocket if there's a return to conflict. So this is not just a bilateral U.S.-Iran situation. The consequences for the global trade, global commerce, and global stability are enormous. You could say we're on the cusp of a descent into the abyss if there is a return to conflict again. And I think the current situation is, if there is a deal, what needs to be is, it's not going to be a long-term deal, but some form of deal at least that can buy some time and diffuse the current economic crisis. And this will keep going on, like I said, a protracted state of managed instability. It's going to take weeks, some would even argue months. This is not going to be an overnight change. You've had from roughly 120 vessels crossing the Strait of Hurmuz on a daily basis prior to February 28th, down to single-digit vessels. And the pipeline of backup is enormous at the present time. So I don't think immediately if the straits do open and you have a resumption to commerce again, it's important to point out, it's important to manage expectations. This is not going to be a return to the previous normal. The new normal is different. The new normal is one, there's going to be the era of secure, predictable, and stable flows is over. Even though the supplies keep going through, will resume. If they do resume, the new normal is going to be marked one in which this managed instability is going to be marked by coercion, constant threats, and the possibility of an outbreak of conflict at any given moment. Once the Strait of Hurmuz, once that red line was crossed, an entire new system an entire new age and an entire new era in global commerce has developed, particularly in the Middle East.